Good day and happy April, friends of Wildland. This is Darren Clabo, your state fire meteorologist. This is the first presentation of the 2026 South Dakota Summertime Wildfire Potential Outlook. Today is April 8th. Consider this presentation to be valid through April 15th. I will create a new one on April 15th to disseminate to all y'all. So, again, it's April 8th, 2026, and let's get started. First, let's discuss the drivers of our fire season in the summer months. So this is going to focus on western South Dakota. Really, central western South Dakota is pretty valid for the months of June, July, and August. In June, well, because it's typically a wet month, we need drought conditions in order to get big fires in June. We also need above average temperatures to help cure down the fuels that are green and to promote evaporation of the water that's inside of those fuels. And of course, that really is determined by short and long-term precipitation deficits. So as we go through this precipitation, when we're looking towards the month of June, think about those three things. When it's July, very, very similar situation. So really June and July, look for those three things. When we get to August, really we want summertime above average temperatures and more of like a 1 to 3 month precipitation deficit. And so as we progress through the summer, the drivers change a little bit, but it's not too consequential. But really, drought and short-term precipitation deficits combined with above-average temperatures. It's not rocket science on what makes our summer fire season here in South Dakota. Here's what we've been seeing over the past 12 months. The warm colors are below average precipitation. The cool colors are above average precipitation, and this is percent of normal precipitation. So that yellow-green area is right around average. By and large, the western United States have been dry. The upper Ohio River Valley has been pretty dry. Southern Texas has been pretty dry. But if you look at northern South Dakota, southern North Dakota, we've actually had a pretty wet 12 months. But the southern third of the state, kind of along and south of the I-90 corridor, has been drier than average. And if we zoom in a little bit to the same graph, you can see that stand out a little bit. The southern Black Hills have been quite dry, and same with areas around kind of the Missouri River. Southern Missouri River east towards the Sioux Falls area has been dry as well. Again, those kind of orange colors are anywhere from 70 to maybe 90% of average precipitation. But if I cut this down a bit and I look over the past 90 days, we've seen some exceptional dryness. Now on the left is percent of normal precipitation, and you're starting to see, in and around the Black Hills from 25 to 50% of average, and the same thing for kind of the southeastern quarter of the state. But on the right-hand graph, I want to point out that that's actually not that much moisture. When I look at actual departure from normal precipitation in inches, you can see that it's really around an inch, maybe 2 inches as a departure from normal precip. So a good solid blizzard or a good solid 2-day rain will get us back up to average. So the percent of normal precip over the past 90 days looks extreme. However, in real numbers, it's really not that bad because this is typically kind of a dry period for us normally. However, when it is this dry this time of the year, it does expose our fuels and it warms our fuels. And we all know the fire situation that we've seen over the past couple of months in the state. Departure from normal temperature, this is really exacerbating the lack of precipitation. The warm colors are warmer than average temperatures, and we've seen exceptional warmth over the past 90 days. Really anywhere from 4 to 6 degrees above average. And on a 90-day period, that's excessive warmth. On top of that, we all know we've had a lot of wind events as well that has helped to desiccate those fuels. Current U.S. Drought Monitor is the bigger chart. The smaller U.S. Drought Monitor is the one we saw early in December, so about 4 months ago. There will be a new U.S. Drought Monitor issued Thursday. That would be tomorrow, April 9th, which you will see. But comparing the two, you've seen a definite expansion of drought across the southern half of South Dakota, going into Wyoming, Nebraska, and into Colorado, even into Utah there. We've seen a lack of precipitation over the upper Colorado River Basin, over the North Platte Basin, and over kind of the Black Hills as well. And this has been extreme. There's and I'll get to this later, but there's virtually no snowpack in the Rockies anymore. And we've seen some expansion of a drought in South Dakota, sudden expansion, possibly worded as kind of a flash drought situation. And we're going to be in a tough situation if we don't start getting some respectable spring rains. This is our Rapid City year-to-date precipitation. Now, on the brown line, so this is January 1st over on the bottom left, the brown line represents average as we progress through today's date, April 8th. The green line represents what we've actually gotten. And we're actually sitting at about 40% of our average year-to-date precipitation. But again, if you look at the real numbers, the difference between the brown line, 2.1, 2.2, minus the top of the green line, just about 1. I mean, we're only short, and maybe an inch and a quarter in terms of rain year-to-date in Rapid City. It's not a lot, but again, the deficits start to stack up. And if we look at Custer, it's a very, very similar situation. Precipitation deficits kind of everywhere. And if we pop on down to Pine Ridge, it's even more dramatic down there, which is why they're seeing, those borderline D2 moderate to D3 severe drought in those areas. Let's look a quick outlook on the near-term weather, where we're going to sit kind of through the rest of the month of April. Here's our next week's precipitation forecast, 1 to 7 days. You'll see the Dakotas in that kind of light green, a tenth to a quarter. We're not going to see a lot of moisture this time of the year. This time in April, we should be picking up somewhere around a 0.05 to 0.07 inch of precip a day, which is roughly 0.35 to maybe a half an inch of precip a week. And again, if we're going to go and have that for the next week, we're going to be racking up precipitation deficits. It does look like the greater western United States is going to get a pretty good splash of moisture. Same with the southern Great Plains extending into the Great Lakes state. They should see some decent moisture, but the northern Great Plains, relatively dry. Going out 8 to 14 days, definitely showing signs of above average temperatures across most of the continental United States, including the Dakotas. And our 8 to 14 day precipitation outlook, it's favoring a more active pattern, which tilts the scales towards above average precipitation in that period. And again, it's not a strong signal for South Dakota to see above average precipitation, but we're kind of in an active pattern. There might be some opportunity to get a little bit of moisture. I tell you what, though, I'm not going to hold my breath on the moisture. It's been fairly consistent this year, where we've been seeing moisture in the 7 to 10 day forecast, and it's just come to be nothing. So although, that 8 to 10 day precipitation outlook is showing, hey, it's green is good, right? I wouldn't bet on it at this point. Let's look at our outlook for late spring and early fall. Here is the May, June, July seasonal temperature outlook and precipitation outlook. Warmer than average conditions and the potential for the scales tilting a little bit towards drier than average conditions. These are, 3 of our wettest months, if you will. At least May and June are 2 of our wettest months. July, we start to dry out in July. But, if we're going to be short on precipitation during our wettest months, that's significant. Combine that with above average temperatures, which is going to boost evapotranspiration rates. In essence, the plants are going to be spitting out more water into the atmosphere. Things have the potential to dry down further. That is not good news. And it's especially not good news for the Northern Rockies or the greater western United States, where fire concerns are going to be increasing dramatically in the coming months. I forgot. So this is kind of a busy slide, but this represents temperatures for May, June, and July as well. So the NMME, the top left quadrant you see up here, that's the North American Multi-Model Ensemble. Basically, it's taking a bunch of different climate models, throwing them together and spitting out a forecast. And it's red everywhere. That is implying that we have high confidence in above average temperatures over the greater continental United States, over really all of North America in the May, June, July timeframe. These smaller figures down here just represent the models that go into it. Pretty much every model is showing all models are showing warmer than average conditions, which definitely tilts the scales towards warmer than average conditions across the greater United States. And if we look at a precipitation metric, overall, there's some signs of some drier than average conditions over the upper Mississippi River Valley and a few of the models. But there's not a strong signal across the Dakotas for above average or below average precipitation. So there's a little discrepancy between these charts and what the Climate Prediction Center put out. But I think what we can hang our hat on is above average temperatures May, June, and July, and average-ish precipitation or no strong signal to above average or below average precipitation during that same time period. Stretching out farther into July, August, and September, man, the heat continues over the greater western United States. Again, I think it's going to make for a very active fire season. With heat, though, especially over the Four Corners area, that heat drives the southwestern monsoon. And so there are some signals that we might have an above average monsoon season across the Four Corners area. That's good and bad. The good part, it might bring some moisture during that time frame, but the bad part, it's going to bring a lot of lightning to the area. So there's potential for more ignitions kind of on the fringes of the monsoonal area where they're going to see those above average temperatures. For the South Dakota, likely warmer than average. No strong signal one way or the other from the Climate Prediction Center on above, equal to, or below average precipitation. Looking at the same kind of chart, this is again for July, August, and September. Strong signals everywhere for warmer than average conditions, so I think we can definitely hang our hat on that. Looking at precipitation, now there are some signals across the northern Great Plains that we might tilt towards drier than average. And this has actually been kind of a trend, if you will, over the past couple of years where our late summer months have been tilted towards a little bit drier than average. So if we maintain warmer than average conditions and we don't get good spring, early summer rain, we could be headed for a tough situation here in South Dakota, at least for our summer fire season. I do want to caveat the temperature charts that we just looked at with the fact that those temperature departures from normal are based upon a normal that runs over the past 30 years. It's really 1990 to 2020 is kind of the period of record. And overall, we've seen decadal trends of increasing temperatures throughout that time frame. In essence, what I'm saying is that a forecast of above average temperatures isn't really going out on a far limb. I mean, we've been seeing increasing temperatures over the greater continental United States for decades now. And if we continue that trend, those forecasts that I just showed you, we're comparing a 2026 forecast to a period of record that goes from 1990 to 2020. We do have a higher likelihood of seeing above average temperatures. Our outlook for the drought, more expansion of drought across the greater western United States and persisting drought in South Dakota. Frankly, I could see that drought line in South Dakota inching farther to the north with the forecast that we're looking at. So do expect our drought to continue here and across the greater western United States. The part that I'm super concerned about this summer is where we stand at with snow water equivalent today with respect to the greater western United States snow. So if we take all of the snow that's sitting up in the mountains and you melt it down, that's basically the snow water equivalent. This graph is showing snow water equivalent in percentiles. So 100% would be average. Anything below that is below average. So you see in the Northern Rockies, you're kind of in that 60 to 80% of average in terms of snowpack that we're seeing right now. But the rest of the reds, that's dismal. Down in Colorado, western Colorado, anywhere from 0% to 25% of average snow water equivalent sitting up in the mountains. We are not going to see the runoff this year. The fuels are currently not under snow, so they are exposed, and it's going to be a hydrologic issue and really a water resource issue for the greater western United States this summer. So tough situation we're at here in the first and second week in April. And I don't really see anything improving, especially with the forecast for increased heat over the same entire footprint. So in essence, I'm expecting kind of a rough fire year across all of the western United States, including potentially South Dakota. To summarize, it's shaping up to be a hot summer across most of the U.S. with a lot of that heat focused west of 100 degrees west in latitude or in longitude. There's no strong signal on precipitation on the northern Great Plains one way or the other, maybe a little bit of a hint of drier than average conditions later this summer. We are under drought. It's expansive drought. And just know that, in April, we're getting a half an inch, maybe 4/10 of an inch per week. And so if we go a week and we don't get a half an inch or 4/10, we only get 2/10, we're losing ground, right? We need to be gaining ground. We need to be seeing precipitation totals more than 0.5 an inch per week in order to gain back the moisture that we need to see. And this just goes in the greater concern of the widespread western United States snow drought. We'll likely see an early start to a fire season, and we'll likely see a fire season continue on throughout the summer and into the fall. I think we're going to have a busy year here in America, so be prepared in the near term. We're still dry. Fire danger is still high across the area. We haven't seen the precipitation. Fuels are still cured out. So, be ready for fires today and tomorrow, but be mentally ready for fires throughout really the rest of 2026. I hate to be such a pessimist, but so be it. There's my contact information. Feel free to call, email, reach out at any time. And of course, I'll be posting this up on my YouTube channel. Well, I hope y'all are doing well. Best wishes. Stay safe out there. And like I say, if you got any questions, let me know.